Hey guys, it's me, MissDarizard. I'm back from my trip to Florida, and I'm ready to get into our Week 2 recap of the MissDarizard Draft League. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first match I'm going to go over here is the Shadow Kingdom Gengars, that's Primersu, versus the Atlanta Alcremes, that's Okan. I kind of hinted to this at the end of our recap last week, but Pride gets off to a really solid start this season. She's gonna come out in this match and look really strong again. It doesn't look that great to start. I mean, she loses her Gigalith for basically nothing. I mean, Okan kills it with his Roserade for basically free, only taking 12% damage, and then proceeding to put Garbodor to sleep. Gives Zeraora a chance to bulk up, but Garbodor immediately wakes up and explodes, taking a pretty good chunk out of Zeraora's health despite the +1 defense. Pride then goes into Hydreigon and kills Zeraora, and this Hydreigon is going to be a problem. And what we see happen here, actually, Okan goes to get Sticky Webs up instead of clicking Bug Buzz, and I honestly think that might have been a misplay. I mean, this Hydreigon is clearly Choice Scarfed, and it has Levitate, so the Sticky Webs aren't going to do anything. I think Okan would have been better served there to just go for damage, click Bug Buzz, and you never know. You might get a crit, you might OHKO. It probably would have been the better play. But that's not what happens, and Pride does a couple switches to get Hydreigon back out there, and then just keeps clicking Draco Meteor. Like, honestly, I've never seen anybody click Draco Meteor this many times consecutively. Her special attack set is just completely nerfed, and she's still out there getting kills with it. But finally, Okan walls it with Ferroseed, so Price switches into Chandelure, completely eviscerates Ferroseed, tanks the Shadow Ball from Drifblim, and then returns the favor by getting a crit Shadow Ball of her own. And that is how Pride continues to move on to 2-0 in this season. So the next matchup will be British Gent, which is the Belper Bewares, versus Brad the Bad, who coaches the Miami Manectrics. That's who actually beat me last week. So I was paying close attention to this match. British Gent coming out immediately setting up Sun with Torkoal. Not sure why he doesn't click Lava Plume there to go ahead and get rid of the Ferrothorn. But it doesn't really hurt him long term. He goes into his Venusaur and starts clicking Weather Ball and does some good damage to Rotom here. He also goes ahead and takes care of the Disguise, but Brad actually brings some good tech here and red cards to get Venusaur out of there, giving him a chance to set up his Mimikyu for free, killing the Torkoal, doing a ton of damage with that crit Woodhammer to a super bulky Sylveon, killing itself on its own recoil, and then dying to Togetic on the following turn from Dazzling Gleam. British Gent then goes into Morpeko, and honestly Brad just completely underestimates this Morpeko, because this Morpeko does so much work to Brad, as well as this Gallade. I mean, British Gent just picks this Gallade up off free agency and immediately puts it to use, gets a nice little setup with Swords Dance boost. Brad does bring some Fun Tech and Endeavor, and then Sucker Punches to try and get the kill, but can't quite get it done. Gallade lives on 1%, gets that Justified boost, and then just Drain Punches to restore its health and just completely destroys Ferrothorn. Then gets the knockoff, a super important knockoff on Togetic to get rid of that Eviolite, so Morpeko can come in here and finish it off with Aura Wheel. That knockoff matters. That knockoff matters so much, because otherwise Togetic lives that. And then Brad the Bad gets greedy there, goes for a Dragon Dance to try to get that boost so it can like try and outspeed the Dragapult. It wouldn't have outsped anyways, and it still couldn't even deal with the Morpeko that was immediately in front of it. So probably a misplay there. Should have went for damage, but oh well. That's how that match ends. The next match is actually me versus Riley Brooks, and I feel bad for Riley because I lost last week, and I was not going to lose again. I come into this week, and I am super prepared. I see Lucario does a lot more damage to my Keldeo than I expect. That tells me what? It tells me that it's running an offensive set, which means I can return the favor with OHKO on Aura Sphere, and that's exactly what we do. Apple Pie walls Lantern so hard. But he makes a good switch in the Celebi, so I obviously go back into Tink to threaten with that 4x effective Bug Buzz. Made sure to get those Sticky Webs out early because we really need those against Dracovish, but that Colossal is going to be really annoying, constantly rapid spinning away my hazards. So I go back into check here, and Check is just such a good counter to Celebi. Completely walls it. We managed to get our rocks back out. Go back into Apple Pie to wall the Lantern. He switches again, and you start to notice a trend here. Obviously, I noticed it as well, and you're going to see that in the way I predict in the future. I go back into Hippo here, predict the switch in Celebi by clicking Crunch to get some good chunk off onto Celebi, and I make the conscious decision here to sack Tink to get the sticky webs off, because again, we really need those to minimize any damage that this Dracovish can do to us, because if it outspeeds, it gets that double boosted Fishious Rend. Bisharp then comes in, completely destroys Celebi because of that super effective knockoff, and then knocks off the item from the Lantern, doing a huge chunk of damage. And then before we die, we make sure we get those stealth rocks off for good chip damage, and that's going to make a difference when we go ahead and finish up the match with a final 3-0 sweep from our Apple Pie. That's not going to happen yet. We do make a good predict here and click Aurasphere to get rid of the Colossal. Someone made a point that that might have been a misplay because he could have switched into Poltegeist, but look, if he switches into Poltegeist there for the immune switch in, he takes chip damage from Stealth Rocks to break the Sash, and Keldeo outspeed, so we would have OHKO'd it with Scald from there anyways with the chip damage. So it was really the right play. What we didn't want to do was click Scald and then restore all of Lantern's health. That's really what we were afraid of, because Lantern is super bulky. But we did it the way we did it, and that really set up our Apple Pie to go ahead and just finish off the rest of the team. So Apple Pie gets a good 3-0 week there. It looks really good for him. Here's our B-Terramon. And that's how our matchup ends for the week. The next match that we are going to cover is Sgt Mack, who is the Newbark Normalizers, and Kerfungal, who is the Sanibel Salazzles. I know Kerfungal was a little disappointed because he had some good strats prepared for Gothitelle with some Shadow Tag, but that's actually banned in this league because of the way we're running. So instead, he takes out Gothitelle and attempts to set up in the face of a Ditto, which is super questionable, and he pays for it dearly because this Ditto responds by proceeding to punch a huge hole in his team by taking out 4 of his Pokemon. I mean, that right there is Exhibit A. When you're up against a Ditto, do not set up, because if you do, this is what happens, and he paid dearly. The Ditto wasn't able to finish it off because it ran out of PP for the extreme speed, but Sgt Mack goes into Diggersby to get a couple stab priority quick attacks off, which does enough chip damage to Weevil to bring in Snorlax, luckily living that hit and able to finish off the job. Tanking that hit, getting a power-up punch, going to sleep here to restore its health, get rid of that paralysis, and then just body slam this Jolteon to death. And Sgt Mack, actually new to Draft League, starting off his season 2-0, looking really good with this normal mono-type team. And then the next match we're going to follow up, or we're going to cover, is probably the most entertaining match of the week, and that's Tentacool Threat, which is for Rachel against Pokemon Real Time, the coach of the Sunny Day Solar Beams. Again, S-tier nicknaming for Inspector Gadget on this Hitmonlee, and also really good coverage with Earthquake. Not sure why she doesn't bring Strange Steam to go ahead and click to get that super effective damage. Maybe she doesn't have it. Either way, Inspector Gadget was vested, really good bring. Real Time makes an awesome switch here to take immune, to get an immune clean switch, and then taunts the Cofagrigus to make sure she can't get that Trick Room off, because we saw she did so well last week by getting off that super potent Trick Room combo with all of her Trick Room Pokemon. Yeah, she loses Kaz to the Body Press on OHKO, but it doesn't matter, the damage is already done. He goes into Cloyster here and clicks Icicle Spear, probably figuring, hey, you know what, he's dead. We already took way too much damage from this thing, so we'll just go ahead. We'll take the Owl into clean switch here on this Type Null. I think he was predicting a switch out there on that knockoff. That's why he clicked knockoff instead of fighting stab. But it's fine, because then he gets a clean switch into Ninetales, who done revenge kills with Weather Ball. And then this right here was such a good bring. She runs Sturdy Avalugg, eats shit on that, but then Mirror Coats it and just completely destroys Ninetales. But what we're going to see happen here after Clefable gets this fire boosted Mystical Fire, he returns the favor. He goes, I see your Mirror Coat and one up you with a Destiny Bond to eat shit. Good game, Wishy-Washy. Goes into Clefable and then finishes off the match with a Psychic to kill the Weezing. then the final matchup, and I want to apologize for this ahead of time because I always do the sped up versions of these replays to kind of make sure we don't take too much time going over these. But I was a dummy and accidentally did the slow version for this one, but it's okay because a lot happens here, and this is honestly, this is the match that we probably want to see this on, because what happens here is just a complete massacre towards the end. Juiced bringing a pretty similar team to what he brought last week, really only swapping out the Verizian for a Stunfisk. But Frozen gets a really good kill here with the Focus Blast hit, which is always seems more rare that it hits. Seems more common that the Focus Blast misses, and he gets rid of that Cobalion, a huge threat, very early on in the match. Goes into hips to kind of wall Trevenant, gets a super effective knockoff damage. Trevenant does do a decent amount of damage, but the writing is on the wall if he leaves Trevenant out here. So he decides to go ahead, switches out an Incineroar, gets that Intimidate off to lower the damage that this Serena can do. But then Serena smartly knocks off to get rid of that Assault Vest, because Frozen recognizes, you know, if we don't get rid of this Assault Vest, the bulkiness of this Incineroar can be a real issue for us. So really smart move there. He goes into his Sleepy Rhydon, who is still taking a snooze. Has his Eviolite knocked off, so he loses some of his bulk. But then he wakes up, hits him with a Stab Earthquake to do a ton of damage. I'm honestly surprised that doesn't kill, but it comes really damn close. And this is when things start to look bad. Juiced goes into Blastoise, gets off a free Shell Smash, sets up, things start to look really grim for Frozen here. I am surprised we don't see another Shell Smash here. Instead, we see him try to go ahead and get rid of this thing with a Hydro Pump. Does a ton of damage, even to a super bulky Eviolite Dusclops. But Frozen does a smart thing here. Goes for Toxic, goes ahead and gets some chip damage, and then does some switching around here to kind of stall it out. Gyarados wearing those heavy-duty boots, which is going to make a big difference here because it's able to switch in without taking any damage, because it would have taken super effective 25% damage from the rocks because it is flying type. But it doesn't take that damage. He does some more switching around back into Dusclops to try and get some more chip off from the toxic damage on the Blastoise. Goes back into Gyarados, and from here it is just the Gyarados show. This Gyarados proceeds to kill the rest of Juiced team. I mean, Moxie Gyarados is a fucking problem. Look at this. I mean, it just OHKOs everything else that's left. Even though this Incineroar comes in with the Intimidate and gets that damage down, I mean, it still gets OHKO'd by Earthquake. I mean, it's really not a surprise. This Gyarados is so good with Moxie, and I think we're going to see this be a major issue for people for the rest of the season. I think anybody coming into a matchup against Frozen needs to be hyper aware that this Gyarados is something that you need to be prepared to address, because if you give it an inch, and if you let it just kill one Pokemon, you put yourself in a position where you could potentially get swept by this thing. That's exactly what happens in Juiced here. So yeah, that covers all of our matches for week 2. Lots of fun stuff that we saw here. So let's go ahead and go into the standings. So we've seen the Venusaur division, Frozen coaching the Hoenns Mad, sitting atop of the division. Actually, the best team in the league currently at 2-0 with a differential of 9, which is really, really strong after only 2 matches. And second is the Newbark Normalizers, also at 2-0, but not quite with a quite as good differential, only at 6, but still really strong. Second best team in the league currently. Sitting at third is the Miami Manectrics. He actually, as of right now, him and Okan, the Atlanta Alchremies, went ahead and got their match for next week in already, and we'll be recapping that match next week. But the results are clear here. Brad moves to 2-1 with a differential of 3, and then bringing up the rear in the Venusaur division is Port Richie Mugu, is tied for the worst team in the league currently at 0-2 with a -8 differential. And that covers the Venusaur division. The next division is the Charizard division. Sitting atop of that division, Primarsu with the Shadow Kingdom Gengars at 2-0 with a differential of 5. Myself, the Olivine City Volties at 1-1 with a differential of 2. Don't worry, Pry, we're coming for that #1 spot. You better keep winning, because if you don't, we're going to take your #1 spot. So you better keep it up. At number 3 is Rachel at 1-1 with a single kill differential, and then tied for last in the league and this division is the San Diego Talon Flames at 0-2 with a differential of -8. In the Blastoise division, we have the Belper Beware sitting atop the division at 1-1 with a differential of 1. And if I know it's still super early in the season, but if the season were to end today, British Gent would be very fortunate that he is in the division he is in, because otherwise he would not be making the playoffs, because he is record-wise not top 4 in the league, but because he's winning the division, he would get a guaranteed spot into the playoffs. At number 2 in the Blastoise division, the Sunny Day Solarbeams at 1-1, right on Belper Beware's heels with a -1 differential. Number 3 is Okan at 1-2 with a -5 differential. Again, Okan went ahead and got his matchup for week 3 done with Brad. And you can see Brad won that matchup. And then in last in the Blastoise division, Kerfungal coaching the San Diego Salazars is at 0-2 with a -5 differential. Things are still really early here. A lot can change. You know, we're only 2 weeks into the season out of an 11-week season, not including postseason. So there is still a ton of time. Anything could happen. No one is eliminated from the playoffs yet. Literally anyone in the league can still make the playoffs. So we'll wait and see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing how these week 3 matches play out. Currently, the kill leader in the league is Gyarados. You can see down there with 5 kills. All 5 of those coming from his week 2 matchup, and that is the leading killer in the league, and part of Owen's Mad's roster. And then Pokemon of the week, obviously Gyarados. 5 kills in a single match. I mean, that's really not disputable at this point. Honorable mentions would go to Ditto for the New Bark Normalizers, and Hydreigon for the Shadow Kingdom Gengars, both with 4 kills. So yeah, that is actually going to do it for our recap for week 2. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in week 3. I should have the video posted on Sunday. The only reason this one's being posted today on a Tuesday is because, again, but thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and y'all have a good day.